Save the Semantics, episode 320. It is May 28th, 2025. My name is Myro. This is the podcast where I ramble on for a bit about some shit. Recording this on a Wednesday afternoon / evening. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out if I'll be able to record. Tomorrow might be a bit tight, since I will be traveling this upcoming week, and I don't think I'll be able to record while I am out of town, so this might be the last recording for a little bit of time, so it's going to be a bit of a shorter episode once again, but just wanted to do a quick NBA kind of catch up along with some other things that I'm looking forward to, in terms of games that I want to play and all that stuff, which will sort of occupy me during my flights. So that would be that's something that I'll get into a little bit. Right now, the Western Conference Finals are ongoing in Game 5. Thunder are up by 15 in the first quarter. So, yeah, I mean, all signs point to the Thunder going to the NBA Finals, which I think was not really that much of a surprise to most people, really. I think that they just all of the decisions that were made to get to this point were very there was a clear intent, there was a clear direction by Sam Presti and the front office and all that, and the product of acquiring assets, draft capital, just building from the remnants of earlier teams, and just kind of recouping assets to a point where honestly, they did go through some really rough stretches, especially like 2020 and 2021. They had some moments, or 22, I think, as well, which is a few years back, where they were still kind of in rebuild mode with getting the before they really got the got Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren and all that stuff. So it's been a steady process from that point on, but it never felt like they ever, after kind of pivoting from the Westbrook, I guess it was more like the Chris Paul era. Well, it was Chris Paul was 1 year, and then it was the Paul George and Westbrook era, I think, prior to that, right? You got the famous Dame Lillard shot to essentially kind of eliminate the Thunder from contention for quite some time. But yeah, despite the shortcomings of those other teams, they've done a really great job in being able to pivot and being able to use, try to get pieces that might constitute a potential future team that could be a contending team. And here we are. This is the best version of this team, right? This is the best version, probably the best Thunder team in franchise. I mean, if they win it all, then yeah, that's going to be no doubt that they're going to be considered the best franchise or best team in franchise history. But I think that it just seems like they are a very well-run organization at this point. There seems to be just good decision making in terms of who they've drafted over the years, even if it's just smaller pieces to kind of surround their main players. And then they made some great moves in the offseason and getting Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso. It's all just culminating in this incredibly well constructed roster. And And then you got, the MVP and SGA leading the way. So it's you see kind of like, I think it's interesting to kind of see the evolution and the changes that this team and this franchise have gone through since like the KD and Westbrook days, right? A decade plus ago, and seeing where they have eventually ended up going, most likely going to the NBA Finals. It's hard for me to, looking at kind of the other side of things, the Pacers in the Eastern Conference look to advance as well. And look, I know series isn't over, of course, and they're going back to New York, but like there hasn't really been this home court advantage of sorts for New York, really. So I don't know. I feel like that series is going to be a wrap as well. So I don't think it's too short-sighted to try to look forward to this potential matchup, and I'm actually going to try to do that now, because I won't be able to record anything for like the upcoming week. I'm going with the assumption, maybe listen, this will age incredibly poorly if somehow the Knicks and the Wolves, both of them somehow come back from a 3-1 deficit. I just don't think that's going to happen. So let's just do the preview right now. Let's do the NBA Finals preview. I'm just going to go through with it because I feel very strongly that this is going to be the matchup. So let's get it started. I think, ultimately, I think the Thunder are going to win. No surprise, right? I think in terms of like the style of play, it's hard to, I think it's a little hard to make a direct comparison between the two teams, other than the fact that both are incredibly deep and they can kind of go to potential players on their roster that could kind of fill in a role if they need to. You have had this kind of rise by Tyrese Halliburton. He had a incredible game yesterday. I wasn't able to watch it live, but catching some of the highlights, and his decision making, his true kind of point guard tendencies, I think, came to light. And he's just a really fun player to watch. Like it's pure. I've said this before, but I think the Pacers kind of exhibit what it is to be playing team basketball. You know what I mean? And having Halliburton as sort of the head of the snake there, he is sort of setting the tone and the pace and all of those things. I watched like a small little breakdown video earlier this morning, just sort of going over why Indiana has been so successful in just getting into their offensive sets, and what constitutes pace and everything. There were multiple instances where Halliburton, he had like 12 rebounds or something like that yesterday. So he taking the initiative on the defensive glass and then pushing the ball forward to get into, just almost going into transition as if like, they made like a defensive stop of sorts, right? I mean, I guess they technically did if the other team missed, but you know what I mean? Like they're going out in transition, pushing the pace. Other teams are kind of like flying down the sidelines, to their kind of designated spots, and like you can see what makes them successful. And New York yesterday just wasn't able to put any pressure at all on Halliburton. While on like the other side, on the Pacers defensive side, they've been doing full court presses the entirety of the series, while on the Knicks side of things, their defensive pressure is just kind of limited. Like they just don't they just don't get close. They don't put pressure on Halliburton. Like they give him just way too much space, right? Like even it's like you're giving him so much space that it allows him to do so much, like along with him making movements, like taking individual actions and taking the defender off the ball and creating space. Like he's also able to just make reads and create all of these, like offensive advantages. And it's just such a fun game to watch from him. And I am curious to see like how that will work against the Thunder. The Thunder, on the other hand, right, it is just the complete opposite of what the Knicks have really done in terms of pressuring the ball. Like that's all they do, right? Like out of everything that that constitutes the Thunder's success, the big part of it is just the fact that they have so many incredible like on-ball defenders, that I think that's going to be really difficult for Halliburton to take advantage of, right? With the Knicks, like there's so many instances where there's just a lot of weaknesses, right? Like everybody talks about Cat, Brunson, even like Mikal Bridges wasn't like perfect on defense. Like he's known to be a good defensive player, but he's had some lapses during this series against the Pacers. So you're kind of left with like, maybe OG and Mitchell Robinson as like the two strongest defenders on the team. But even then it's like there were moments where, Robinson was switched on to Halliburton, and Halliburton's going to take advantage of that, right? Like he's, if there's like a big on him, like he's going to, just do his action, either take it to the rim or, do like a step back three. So and then you compare that to the Thunder, like it's just like across the board. Like you could have like, whoever they put in their starting lineup. I believe they moved in some instances, if I remember, I think they moved Hartenstein to the bench. So like you have Chet at the 5, right? But even then it's like the other 4, whoever, wing defenders can very clearly and very much handle Halliburton, right? Even like Shea, who's quote unquote one of their weaker defenders, like he's still like a good defender, right? So if he gets like switched on to him, I think he wouldn't have too much of, like of course it would be a little maybe more difficult and maybe more advantageous for Tyrese, but still it's like I don't know. It's hard for me to it's like unless like the Thunder, or excuse me, the Pacers are just like, their shot making continues to just be like incredible, carrying forward from this series. Like just even like despite the defense that OKC adds, I don't know. Like the only I it's hard for me to kind of envision the Pacers being able to pull it off. It's going to be tough. I don't know, like out of any of the matchups, if any of them would have been favorable, like for the Thunder, or like I don't really, the Knicks, I don't think they would have really done much against the Thunder, and so like the Pacers are, I guess, like the best option, but even then it's a little tough for me to kind of see, but we'll see. We'll see. They do have more offensive threats as opposed to OKC, so that I think is maybe in their favor. But even then, it's just like I think the defensive presence of just all of OKC, I think, is just going to be too much for Indiana to overcome. Because like, who have they faced up against? like that has like a, like a really strong defense like Milwaukee. No. Cleveland, like, sure, they were, decent like in stretches. Like they were like considered like a top 10 defense, I believe, in the regular season. But like if you think about like who they have on the perimeter, it's Garland, Mitchell, and I don't know, like like they just don't have the personnel to they don't necessarily have that kind of like lockdown defender, like maybe outside of Mobley, but you're not going to have him switch on to, the whatever, you know what I mean? Like that series happened. So I don't know. There just hasn't been the same level of defense, and it's just more so like how good OKC is. I know they've been just kind of glazed and like complimented a whole lot this playoffs, and obviously like the whole SGA free throw thing I think has gotten a little out of control. I get it, I totally understand, but it's hard not to look at that defense and what they're able to do and kind of go like, man, I just don't know if there's really anybody who can match that this year. And so I don't know, I hope that Indiana is able to kind of push the series and make it into something. I think it's going to be my prediction for the series. I think is going to be OKC in 5. I think Indiana will be able to kind of push them and get one in like Indiana, but yeah, outside of that, I don't know. Hopefully, I'm surprised. Maybe I'm surprised, but I just think that they've just gone through the paces. I think that Nuggets series was like the biggest like obstacle for them to kind of overcome, and playing against like Jokic at just like the best of his abilities. I mean, they did limit him. They did push him and really defend him strongly and be physical with him and all that. But still, like they overcame that. This series against the Wolves has been kind of underwhelming, I would say, for if you wanted to see like a more competitive series. Like last game was pretty good, game 4, but yeah, outside of that it's been kind of a bit of a lull, and it just feels like they're going to close it out tonight. So I think that they're ready. I think they're ready to just kind of like take it, and I don't know. I just don't know if Indiana has the personnel to be able to overcome the personnel of the Thunder and just how cohesive they are on the defensive side of the ball. So it's gonna be tough, and I just don't like. I don't know who's gonna like this. And then on the other side, like I don't know who's gonna really be able to guard Shea, right? They put Nesmith on Brunson during this past series. And it's, he's done like a decent job, but like Brunson was still getting like 30, he's still getting like 30 points. He was still getting his shots. So I just don't know how I just don't know who else can really, he can do that, but I don't know how much better he's going to fare against SGA if they do intend on putting him on him too. So yeah, it's going to be tough. It is like an interesting matchup. Absolutely. Just in terms of roster construction, the way in which both of these teams have ended up in this position, the fact that neither team has won a championship yet, I think these are huge. Like it's huge. Like it's a pretty big, it's a pretty big moment. I feel it's a continuation of the parity of the fact that there has been going to be 7 champions going on from 2019, 7 different champions going on from 2019. So I think it's cool. Like I like them. I think it's a cool matchup. I just think unfortunately it's going to be really tough for Indiana to be able to do a lot with OKC. I just think it's going to be really hard on both sides of the ball. So yeah, I'm gonna say Thunder in 5, but hopefully I'm proven wrong. Hopefully it's going to be a bit more of a competitive series, and yeah, I just maybe they can. Maybe Indiana has some more tricks up their sleeve. Who knows? Rick Carlisle has had a great postseason. He's just outcoached like every coach in this in these playoffs. So, maybe he's able to pull some player from the bench that is just kind of this spark plug of sorts. I don't know, some making just like adjustments and everything like that. I don't know, but yeah, it's going to be it's hard for me to see them overcoming OKC. So that's my prediction for the finals. Is it premature because the series haven't ended yet? Absolutely. But I feel pretty confident that that's going to be the matchup. So I'll leave it off at that. Just wanted to give a little preview, give some thoughts of the finals and everything. Yeah, just a quick little, as I don't know if I'll be able to like watch the earlier games because of like timing and stuff, but if it is a longer series, I'll be able to I'll be able to catch them. But yeah, also just like a quick little quick notes on just games. I think I'm gonna play X. I'm gonna get back into X while on my flights. Just dive back into it, see if I can progress main story objective, see how I'm feeling about that, and just kind of dive back in because it has been a while for me since I've really played it. I'll be playing like Rogue Legacy 2 and stuff. It's gonna be a longer fight, so I'll have some time on my hands to catch up, and maybe I'll play some other games as well. So that's kind of exciting, and once I get to that point, I will I'll talk about that and provide my thoughts. But yeah, short little episode today, just a little quick hitter, and next time I'll post will most likely be next maybe like a week and a half from now, more or less. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode. This has been Save the Semantics, signing off.